All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Cold Front. Today, we finally get to talk about Sinners. I knew I was going to have an absolute blast with this film. The second I watched that first trailer, and it ended with that shot of Michael B. Jordan pointing that daggone atomic gun at the camera and like shooting at the proverbial audience. That's really all you had to do to sell me on Sinners. And then the more, you have the whole, is that a vampire aspect in it, and music, question mark. And Ryan Coogler is directing it. It's his original script. He produced it. I'm in, if you don't know, Ryan Coogler, the director for this is his baby, from what I understand. This is a brainchild. He's the director of the Black Panther films, director of the Creed films. He's kind of built up a reputation so far. But from I don't know if this is his first attempt at writing or not, but it's the first time he's gotten this level of acclaim, I think. And I was almost a little nervous coming into this because I intentionally didn't know a lot of it. I had avoided a lot, and the the Rotten Tomatoes, the IMDb, the cinema score hype on this is unlike anything I've seen in a long, long time. The amount of consensus among people on how good of a and not even that, the fact that this is not a previously established IP, meaning this is not Ryan Coogler's take on a superhero or on, Creed was off Rocky. That's already established. This is his own thing, and it's got a lot of horror in it. And just FYI, it's got three sex scenes in it. There's no nudity, which is, that's a weird kind of mishmash, but I do think that you deserve to know that those things are in there. There's a lot of language, a lot of adult content and things being explored here. It's R rated, and this level of acclaim, you just don't see that. Usually, if it's got even a hint of those themes, it's not going to have a very high collective audience and critic score, just because like not that's not everyone's thing, and that's fine. Some people, if you hear that and you're totally tuned out, don't go watch Sinners. But if you're still with me, hear me out when I tell you this is the best film I've seen this year. This is one of the best original films I've seen in a long time. It's going to be one I'll probably watch many times because there's a lot. It's part of why it's taken me a while to get this review out because my opinions have changed on this film so much since watching it, and they kind of I feel like I've had to bake. That they've had to slow cook or smoke. Even just let's start from the beginning. Sinners. Um, it follows a kid named Sammy and his cousins, right? His cousins Smoke and Stack. You got Smoke, Stack, and Sammy, who's also a preacher boy. Um, and all I really want to say is Smoke and Stack, played by Michael B. Jordan. He plays dual roles. And we'll talk about that here in a second. They're coming back from Chicago to their hometown, 1930s Mississippi. So there's a lot of racial elements involved here in this film to set up what they call a juke joint, which basically a bar or club, whatever you want to call it, but a more a bluesy bluegrass themed, right? Which is where Sammy comes in because he plays the blues really well, right? And his dad's a preacher, that's why he's called Preacher Boy. That's all I really want to say. They get this juke joint going. They come back into town. They're like they got a reputation from all their time in town. They went to the war to fight World War I, then went to Chicago, got involved with some people, and now they're back. And I feel like that's all people need to know. Yes, there are vampires in this film. No, this is not a horror film. Does it have some horror sequences in it that absolutely are metal? Yes, it does. But that aside, Sinners, the vampire and Michael B. Jordan and like action is kind of what hooks you. But that's not the thing that has been getting all the acclaim. You come for that. That's what you get you in the door, but you stay for everything else. I'm telling you, the one if you could take one word from like just my thoughts and what your thoughts kind of heading into see Sinners should be is rich. Sinners is a rich, deep movie in a number of ways. You could go. There's a reason it's got such broad appeal. You could go to just watch this, gangster, vampire, horror, action thriller that has a lot of romantic kind of sexual tension amongst many different characters in it, a lot of relationship building and complex individuals. and you could have a lot of fun just right there because it's got a lot of music in it too. I say it's part musical, but not in the sense in they're like singing the plot to you, more in the sense of music is such a part of the fabric of what this movie is and what it's trying to be. Like it's so entrenched in the plot and who the characters are and everything else. There's multiple musical sequences and it explores a lot of its themes. For those musical sequences that in a sense, it is kind of a musical, but it does it really, really well. And so, just rich is the best way I can describe this. The characters are rich. Smoke and Stack, in particular, to me, particularly Smoke. And that's another thing. I don't know how Michael B. Jordan. I mean, he's awesome, but how are you this awesome? Both Smoke and Stack alone could probably have serviced as a standalone amazing character for a movie like this, and I would have got to see it. But they're in this movie, and they're twins, and they're interacting with each other a lot. And interacting with other characters while interacting with each other, and it's seamless. I would have thought, if I didn't know any better, that they're actually two different individuals. They really did a really good job. But even when they're not, together, Jordan does such a good job of playing these characters so differently. Like they're so grounded together in their experience as brothers, and you can feel their brotherhood. But they're so different. Smoke's more the pragmatic, serious one, and Stack is more of the charismatic, carefree one. Just to put it lightly, I don't want to go into any more details, but they both have their own motivations, their own relationships back in this town that they're kind of coming back to, their own traumas. They have both their own sins and weaknesses, that they struggle with, and both their own unique redeeming qualities, as does pretty much every character in here. This movie, if you didn't know about the vampire aspect and some of the horror scenes it kind of showcases in the trailer, you wouldn't know that it was really part. It like hints at that very beginning of the movie, but I would say the first 60% of this movie is like a gangster crime drama, but in the best way possible. This movie is very concerned about attaching you to the relationships and connecting you to the history of this town in Mississippi and all these characters. You have Smoke and Stack and Preacher Boy, but you also kind of start to fan out and bleed out as they're trying to set up this juke joint. You start meeting essentially their cast of individuals that they kind of selected to bring together and make this a special place of music and culture for their community. And of course, you have, like I mentioned, some racial tension in there. Is there some commentary on that? Yes. Is it preaching at you or slapping in the face? Not really. I think it gets some of its points across. It never preaches at you because that's not really the point of the film. And I do not agree with all the politics of Ryan Coogler, but I wasn't distracted by any of that. There was a lot of messed up stuff that happened, particularly back then. And it's really, this film is a celebration of that time period and that culture and kind of some of those familial and relationship units back in the day. And it has a lot to say in regards to that. Okay. They have all that. Then you have the musical aspect of this. And I'm not a music person. I think I've mentioned that before. Music's not really I like music, but that's not really like, I don't get excited if there's music in a movie. But this film does it really, really well. And it just sits in these scenes, man. It's like it just wants you to be there and it wants you to experience the beauty of some of this stuff, and there's one scene in particular that everyone's been talking about, that because a point that they make in the trailer, I don't think it's really spoiling things, that they're individuals. This movie has created its own mythos, its own kind of what do you call it? Its own anyways, its own mythos. Through that, a big part of it is music, because there's individuals that can create music so pure that they can conjure spirits, almost interact with people from the past and from the future in like one moment, because the music is so good. It's like an out of body experience, essentially. And for this movie, it's an out of time, out of dimension experience. And there's one scene in particular where they visualize that in a very unique way, and I dug it. It's not usually my kind of thing. Visualizes that aspect very intentionally, and with a one shot take that's like revolving around the room, and it's just I was like amazed. Like, how did they pull that off? I don't know. I watched a documentary behind a lot of the shots in this film. The cinematography is so, so good. It's so refreshing. It's kind of like how refreshed I was watching the Batman, Robert Pattinson's Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman a few years ago with how immaculate the cinematography was and how just good the movie looked. Sinners just looks good. There's so many sequences that could be a portrait that you just could tell love and care and intention was put into every shot and every sequence. Um, and then that all is happening, and I'm having such a good time with this movie. I'm so invested in these characters. And then you input these vampires, and oh my goodness, these are Abigail did it well last year, with some of the vampirical stuff. This, I mean, yeah, I really want more. I want more. I want more from the Sinners universe. I don't want to say too much because I'll spoil stuff. But the vampires in this film do not hold back. They are uh, they are brutal, but they're also there's this there's this enticement to them. You can see why you would want to be one in a sense. That there's a theme they're explicitly exploring with the vampires that is kind of on the nose, but it's just really cool how they did it. They're not necessarily just these bloodthirsty monsters for the sake of being bloodthirsty monsters. They're individuals collectively in their own right. I'll just say that. But very cool mythos. Really leans really hard on a lot of the vampire tropes. Just embrace it. It just goes for it. And 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 by the end of the film, you have all this horror tension built up, and you've got all these characters that you care about and you love, and then everything just starts happening, and it is the definition of just a powder keg explosion of a finale that it's just payoff, 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 and it just the whole last 30 minutes was just an experience in so many good and bad ways, and it tugs on every single emotion all the way through because you really don't want any of these characters to get harmed, and you want good to triumph, and you want their to be some successes for these characters you've bonded with, over this time frame. And this movie just feels like an epic. It feels like this own subgenre. It's created its own subgenre of like this blend of all these different things all at once. It's got its own flavor. It's got its own flair. I've never seen anything like it. And it's a movie that I will be seeing many times again because I enjoyed it, but there's so many things I just want to dissect and just sit on and understand. This is a movie that can be studied in a lot of ways. And it's one of those reasons why, like, I can't rate some of these Oscar nominated films that high because they forget to be entertaining. This movie has just as much like elite cinematography as a lot of the films nominated for the Oscars, and it's got excellent action. It's got better characters than any of those films, hardly, and it's got the music and this romantic tension, and the horror is just on point. There's one scene in particular. There's not a lot of jump scares in this film. It's not really one of those. But there's one scene in particular that just gave me chills in all the right ways. It was so effective. There's a shot behind a character. They're walking away. There's something behind them, and that's been stuck in my brain for a little bit. But you could just tell when this movie goes into music mode, it's hitting on all cylinders. When it's just sitting in some like intense character, like whether it be sadness or some recollection of an event or whatever, it just sits in it and lets you breathe with these characters, and it's hitting on all cylinders. And whenever the action hits, it's so well choreographed, so well done. And then when the horror hits, it's hitting on all cylinders. This is a movie that doesn't miss a beat. It's as perfect as a movie can get for a blockbuster in this day and age. Is there some nitpicks? Yeah, I do think But that's more of like spoiler talk. I think there was, that there was a couple decisions that characters made towards the back half of the film that I thought didn't make a ton of sense. Uh, in terms of just action wise and stuff, and so many things happened. I'm forgetting some of them now, but I do remember thinking, I don't know if that like, I could see the CinemaSins guy kind of picking this movie apart, especially towards the back half of it. But I think all the thematic wins and stuff it makes, and all the uniqueness and just its own, and how well it excels and everything else, I can kind of forgive a lot of what it kind of fumbles on there. But at the end of the day, this is this is going to be in the top 10 list for a lot of people. This is going to be in the top 5 list of a lot of people, including myself. I don't know where it's going to end up on the year, but for now, from what I've seen so far this year, this is the best movie I've seen for the year. It is a 10 out of 10. It is a 3 out of 3 on entertainment, the craft, the substance, and how deep it is. This movie hit it out of the park. I'm so glad that studios took a risk on Ryan Coogler and gave him this budget, and I hope he's gonna be one that I keep expecting big things from, because I thought this movie was gonna be good. I in no way thought it was gonna be this good. So please, if you haven't yet, go rush out to go see Sinners. See it on as big of a screen as possible. It's one of those movies that is worth investing in to see it on a really big screen and sound system, because this movie doesn't hold back. So thank you for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys next time.